I
Your
press
turn,
OK,
Preston.
and now I will do it.
Okay.
Record to this computer.
And I will approve.
All right.
I think we're in the
Host has
recording
allowed
mode.
you.
Are we? Are we set?
Yeah, I guess I'm recording. Says
Yeah.
so.
Okay. I've agreed. So, first off, my name is Gloria. Welcome to the return of Inception podcast season 2. I've been off the scene for nearly 3 years due to a medical condition where I flatlined, and I've spent the last 3 years recovering. I'm coming back with an amazing guest who has been a previous guest on the podcast, the lovely Preston. Now, I'm sure everyone knows about Preston Dennett. However, Preston, could you give a brief description before we go into the conversation about the work you do and your books? A short bio.
Yeah, sure. I was 21 years old when I realized UFOs were real. I had previously been a skeptic. My brother, it turns out, had seen a UFO, and after hearing a report on the news about this, not his sighting, but another sighting, I went to my older brother Mark and asked him about his sighting, and yeah, he had this incredible close-up encounter with your classic flying saucer. That's what broke the ice for me. Turns out quite a few people I knew, friends, family, and coworkers had had encounters. So as a result of that, I started buying all the books I could find on the subject, joining UFO groups. I became a field investigator for MUFON within a year of all of this. Started, formally investigating cases and interviewing people. Eventually started writing articles. I just dove into research for 10 years, writing 30, 40 articles before I put out my first book, UFO Healings. That was in 1996. Since then, I've been putting out, on the average, one book per year.
Yes.
I'm now at, 32 books, working on 33, 34, and
Yeah.
35.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I started having my own encounters too, about 3 or 4 years into my
Well,
research.
we will go to your encounters, but there's something that's been missed out is what I have watched since I've come out of hospital for nearly 3 years, your YouTube channel. Your YouTube channel is absolutely amazing, and the amount of work and research and how you present it with such passion, that is extremely successful, is it not?
Thanks, Gloria. Yeah, it's been really taking off
It has,
recently.
yeah.
It's a tremendous amount of work,
That, I
a
mean,
lot of research.
yeah, I mean, I don't do the research you do, but when I was doing Inception podcast and Open Minds podcast before, just the interviewing people from around the world, the amount of research just for that I had to do, it was physical. It was physical and mental. I cannot imagine what you've had to go through to be where you are today. And hence it's a segue in now, is you always speak about and share with such passion and evidence other people's experiences. Um, Today, I would like to hear your experience. I would like it to be about Preston Dennett. We all know the massive achievements that you've achieved for others, but today I would like it to be just about you.
No.
So, when was your first experience?
Kind of a trick question, because when I found out UFOs were real, started
Mm-hmm.
reading about things like missing time and
Mm-hmm.
realized this was in my family,
Mm-hmm.
because we know this is a phenomenon, for lack of a better word, that does kind of track families, is
Genetic.
generational.
Yeah, yeah.
And my brother having had a sighting, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it was more than just a sighting, two
Mm-hmm.
sister-in-laws who,
Mm-hmm.
literally saw ETs face to face. My little sister had a number of sightings, including missing time.
Mm-hmm.
This all wasn't immediately apparent to me,
No.
but yeah, it's in my family.
Yeah.
So I started, first thing I did when I found out this was all real is examined my past. 'Cause I'm
Mhm.
thinking, well, have I ever seen a UFO? No, I sure haven't. Not growing up and so forth. I'm 21 years old and looking back. Uh, but there were a few strange incidents,
That,
very kind
yeah,
of minor,
yeah.
and took me a little bit to really kind of unpack. But probably the most, telling one or most prominent would be around age 9 or so.
Hmm.
We have 6 kids in our family, and we weren't wealthy by any means. Not that, we went hungry ever, but you didn't miss lunch because you just didn't. And one day I did. I was in my room waiting, you know, and suddenly came out and found out it's much later than I thought it would be. It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, why didn't you guys call me for lunch? And they said, well, we did. You weren't there. I'm like, what do you mean? I've been in my room the whole time. And they're like, no, you weren't in there. But I was. So, now looking back, I'm wondering if that was a missing time incident. Uh,
Well, sorry
no.
to interrupt. I mean, straight off the bat for me, it was. I mean, I had a similar where I wasn't there and I got into trouble for not being there after school. But to me, I was there. And I've heard many others like that. Um, have you ever had, before we continue, have you ever gone through regression? I haven't. I do choose not to, but have you ever gone through regression for that?
No, I haven't. And I've had, coming up some missing time incidents that were very obvious.
Yeah,
And I support hypnosis. I think it
yeah,
works, it's done correctly.
yeah,
But it is controversial.
yeah, yeah.
And, even when people come to me with missing time and
Mm,
ask me, do you think I should do hypnosis? I say, well, if you want, but I
mm,
usually only recommend it if it's a very clear-cut case of
yeah,
missing time
yeah.
with an actual, indication of
Mm,
a UFO or an ET being present.
mhm.
And I'm underlining this, it's affecting your life in a way that's, causing you perhaps crippling anxiety, or
Yeah,
you just can't stop thinking about it,
yeah. I'm with
or,
you.
there's
Yeah,
some driving reason for it. Because
yeah, I'm with
I
you.
would first recommend writing everything down, going back, writing down again, meditating, because you
Mhm.
can actually fill in a fairly complete
Oh yeah,
narrative.
yeah, yeah,
Ask,
yeah,
doing dream work, which is
yeah.
very effective.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's how I've been able to recall quite
Yeah.
a bit of, my own experiences.
That's very similar to me. I've never had the inclination for hypnosis. I've never been anxious. I've experienced it since I was a toddler, so it's always been natural, and I just sort of accept the missing time and the things that happen. But through my practices, because I work through self-inquiry, more memory occurs. It comes back, and I think you get the amount for me that I need to have to move me along the path a bit further. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and I think when it's time, these things, because I've seen this with other contactees,
Yeah,
the memories do come back
yeah,
when you're perhaps ready to handle them, or
exactly,
when you
exactly.
choose to.
Sorry, I interrupted you. So I just found that interesting for anyone that's listening, that maybe a contactee or an experiencer, who better to hear from than Preston Dennett. So do continue, Preston. Do carry on.
Yeah. And here's another strange thing, which I, now looking back in hindsight,
Mm,
kind of wonder about. At age 6,
mhm,
uh, I suddenly, for no reason, became obsessed with disasters of all kinds.
mhm,
I mean, tidal waves,
mhm,
hurricanes,
mhm.
earthquakes, tornadoes,
Yeah.
landslides,
Mhm,
tsunamis, all of it.
mhm.
And I'd be like, take me to the library. I was out reading at, a pretty good level at that age
Mhm,
because, I do have older brothers and sisters, and,
mhm,
they treated me very much like, an adult kind of.
mhm.
No one talked down to me or was
Yeah.
condescending.
Mhm,
So that's weird because, thinking about contactees and how they're often warned about
mhm.
upcoming disasters and this sort of thing, it fits in.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents, my mom's like, what is up with you? Why are you checking out all these books? I'm like, I don't know. I just need to know.
Mhm.
And if
Do you
you can
think,
see,
sorry to interrupt you again, but I mean,
no,
I just got to
anytime.
grab that. I can't let you just move on. With looking in hindsight for what you've done for these past 30 years, I mean, I had seeing disasters. I was a bit older than that. I was in my teens to early 20s. But do you think that was prepping you because of the journey you were going? That you're an author, you're a researcher, as if you were being prepped along your pathway for where you are today?
Do. I do, because it was an unusual thing.
Yes.
And I always wondered about it.
Mm.
And, and I do, if you can see the bookcase behind me, I've got
Yes.
every book on, the disasters.
Yes.
And I always wondered, like, why? Why am I so?
Mm.
But then, it kind of came full circle when I was interviewing contactees, and they're talking about the very things I've been studying
Mhm.
for so long.
It's
So,
to be a researcher like you have been and still are. You needed to have, let's say, that schooling in disasters and experiences prior for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to articulate or put into context the question you need to ask the experiencer to get the feedback that you need. Does that make sense to you?
yeah.
So,
And also, as a young man, I became very, very interested in astronomy.
yeah.
And
Gosh.
that sort of thing, which is another thing you do see with contactees. They'll
Yeah.
suddenly develop an interest in quantum physics and
Oh, God,
astronomy
yes. I
and
studied it. Yes.
mathematics and all of this.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I look back at that and I wonder, but I can't say that, I've seen humanoids or UFOs as a
I
young
don't
man.
think you have to. I mean, I have seen the beings and I have seen the craft and the recent things, but there's other aspects. I always look at it with experiences. We're all part of the puzzle, and it doesn't matter if you don't see a UFO and all the pieces coming together. So, for example, the work that you've done over the decades, I have no understanding of it. I can't contribute that way. But your work, maybe with my work and someone else's work, and all of us experiences coming together and sharing. I don't
Uh,
think you have to
no,
see.
we all play uh, a certain role. We all have a piece of
Absolutely,
the
yeah,
puzzle, something to contribute in our own way. I
absolutely,
always knew from a very young age I was going to be a writer. I
yeah.
knew it, knew it, knew
You
it.
knew it, yeah.
My brothers and sisters were like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just know I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell incredible stories." I didn't know what it would be about, but I knew it would happen.
And that's
Uh,
the passion that was there from the get-go. That's the passion. That's why,
you know,
obviously I have followed you over the years, and the standard of your work, and it's not just your research, it's the passion. It's like you're here to share experiences, stories. You're here to get that information out to other experiences that don't have access. Does that make sense to you? And it's
I
like
think
you
this is
came
something
in just to
yeah.
do this job and more. I think you've surpassed what you've done. As to astrology, I went mad on astrology. I went mad on all. I found interviewing other experiences. We all are similar in the things that we followed through growing up, teenager, adult. We're all very similar in similar, but then we tend to go off to a specialized area, if that makes sense. That's what I found. I'm not a writer of books. I went to university. When I finished university, I said I never want to go near a book again. I listen to audiobooks now because I refuse to do that type. And that's just me. I'm over right brain. I'm an artist. I can't stand the analytical side. However, in your case, it's the work that you've done. I've never, in the experiences I've read about, studied, or interviewed, I have not as yet, and I could be wrong, the audience may correct me, or you, Preston, more likely, please correct me. I've never known anyone as fervent and so much detail and 30 odd books has done so much for experiences. I don't know of anyone else that's done it at all.
Well, there's
I've
certainly some
tried to
researchers
find,
out there.
yeah,
that,
I've tried, and it's So it seems like your work and especially your YouTube channel, I mean, it's a niche. And every time I watch it as an experiencer, I learn more and more. And you say things in a way that, and this will happen for other experiencers that listen to your channel. I never looked at it like that. Wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's that sort of discernment, introspection coming outside of you. You think experiences are way outside the box. No, they're not. There's always a learning. I don't know anything. I only know the experience I go through. Does that make sense?
One of the reasons I, do this research is because for me, just finding out UFOs were real was such a tremendous shock and really difficult to process.
Yeah.
And I could only imagine how it was for people who are actually having this experience.
Yeah.
And it's so gratifying when people, perhaps read one of my books or
Yeah.
hear me on a podcast like this one,
Yeah.
or, watch my YouTube channel and,
Yeah.
write back like, oh my gosh, you saved me. This is so cool. This is absolute corroboration. This is what happened to me.
Yeah.
I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you,
Absolutely.
thank you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. It's wonderful
Yeah.
because we
I've
build a
digressed you
community.
off. I've digressed you off. You know what I'm like, Preston? Let's go back to you. So let's go along the timeline of your experiences.
All right. Well, one more thing that, before it all kind of broke wide open for me was,
Mhm.
as a young man, 16, 17, 18, I would go outside and stare at the stars
Yeah.
and just, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. It was just so profound. I knew something was out there. It
Mhm.
would almost bring me to tears.
There's something there. You just know there's something there.
I'm like,
Even
I
if
just can't, I couldn't even watch. I'd go out and would be like, oh my God, I can't handle this and go back inside because there's something going on
yeah.
up in those
Mm.
those stars. It was just this feeling of absolute infinity and wonder that was beyond anything I've experienced. But yeah, it all changed for me about as I was interviewing people uh, and reading books. It's so cool to read these books, like
Mhm.
Betty and Barney Hill, The
Yeah.
Interrupted Journey, and
Mhm.
the Travis Walton
Oh,
story. And
Travis Walton, that was a big one for me. That was a big one now.
yeah, there was a very early book
Yeah.
about his experiences, and of course, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, and there was, the Betty
Yeah.
Andreasson story.
Yeah.
Not a lot of books in the late 1980s
No.
about firsthand experiencers. And I'd read these up like, wow, this is mind blowing. And then I would talk to people who are actually having these experiences and it felt like I was a step closer because I'm listening to people firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't enough for me. I wanted to know. It's one thing to believe and listen to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
but I needed to see a UFO. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to know if this was real because I kind of knew. I know my family and friends weren't lying to me and weren't hoaxing or misperceiving
You
or
find it's even with myself. I mean, what I've experienced, some things others have experienced, I haven't, and it was like the most recent cube, and I'm going. I know, I believe, I know it's true, but I just need to know. I need to experience that. Is that what you're talking about? You're aware it's true, but you want. I need to not that you need more evidence. For me, I don't see it like that. It's like I'm now ready for the next level. I'm now ready to experience.
exactly.
Is
Yeah.
that's how I feel? Is that the same with you?
Yeah. It felt like a need,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was a craving
A
because
craving, yeah, an addiction.
I'm the kind of researcher who, I've researched ghosts. Well, I went to haunted places and I saw ghosts.
Yeah,
I researched Bigfoot. I had a
yeah.
Bigfoot encounter.
I
I started
haven't. I've
researching.
never had a Bigfoot. Mind you, I live in the UK, so I doubt if I will unless they're over here. I've never had one of them. Ghosts, I've done mediumships,
Yeah.
spirits, yes, but not Bigfoot.
It's a
What's
way
it
of
like?
immersing
Come on,
yourself in.
you can't move past that. Tell me about the Bigfoot
Yeah.
experience. Come on, you've got to.
Um,
Well,
yeah. Well, I wanted firsthand experiences with all this stuff, and having interviewed a, kind of Bigfoot, I resisted the subject because I'm like, what if this is real? It probably is. I don't want to go there. I'm already embroiled with UFOs and
yeah,
ghosts. This is a whole can of worms, and of course
yeah.
it was. But I started interviewing people. I ended up writing a book on the subject at the request of a publisher, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, got a call from a lady who was having regular Bigfoot encounters and went out with her. I went to her house in Acton and she explained to me what, how the Bigfoot came up to her window and looked in, and her son confirmed it, as did her roommate. So this was like, wow, they're not lying. And she had a pretty complex narrative to share. It's like, I think I know where it's coming from.
Hmm.
Mind you, this is just north of Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Where she lived was fairly remote, Acton, right? But it's right off a major freeway, maybe
Hmm.
2, 3 miles.
Hmm.
So I went to her house and I'm interviewing her and looking to see if she has any Bigfoot books or UFO books. No, she doesn't. And she's like, well, it lives in this valley off here, about 3 miles away. Let's go up there. I'm like, okay. So we went up there. We brought all kinds of sound equipment and cameras because we're investigating. And it's down this dirt road into a very remote area, actually.
Were you
Uh,
scared at all at any point before? How
n-
were you
Not
sort of
remotely.
like neutral? Were you neutral?
Um, no, I wouldn't say I was neutral. I was not remotely scared. I was eager, excited. The
Brilliant.
subject has never scared me. Not ghosts, not UFOs, not
No, no,
Bigfoot.
no.
Uh,
Brilliant. Okay,
I
good.
learned early on, I started having out-of-body experiences, which I
Mhm.
think we've talked about.
Yeah, in
But
the
that
previous,
helped
yeah.
remove a lot of the fear because I
Yeah.
realized I'm an immortal being. This
Mhm.
universe is essentially a safe place. You know, I
Brilliant.
think knowledge trumps fear every time. Love
Always.
as well.
Oh,
So if you can just walk with,
it's all about
yeah,
love. Yes, I was born in the 60s, but still today it's all about love. It's all about
yeah. So
love,
I
yeah.
just kind of let love and
Mm.
truth guide my
And
actions,
trust.
and
And
yeah,
trust.
exactly.
It's a
So no, I've
trust.
never been scared.
No, no.
But I'll say it was kind of an alarming situation because we got up there and
Yeah.
there's no sign of civilization other than the road we're on, a little dirt road. There's no telephone poles, there's no light pollution,
Mhm.
there's no structures, there's nothing up there. It's the edge of the Los Angeles National Forest, which is,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, like a 500,000 acres. It's a
Bloody hell.
huge and a
Bloody hell.
long history of Bigfoot
Mhm.
encounters. I later found out. I mean, lots of reports. So that helped confirm, certainly her story. But at any rate, we pull up there, it's just dusk, the stars are just starting to come out. It's getting dark very quickly because these are steep canyon walls that are almost 45-degree angle. I'm
Mhm.
not exaggerating. It's very rough terrain,
Mhm.
thick, thick, thick with brush.
Mhm.
You could not traverse it, not, just not easily.
Mhm.
So at any rate, she's like, I think that, that's where it's coming from. She's, we both get out of the car and she goes to the back seat and is pulling out or starting to unpack the equipment we brought. And I walk to the front of the car and I'm kind of doing a 360-degree surveilling of, where we're at, the terrain and the environment. And we weren't there 1 minute, when a sound like what I thought was actually a jet coming overhead, but
Wow.
immediately realized it wasn't because it was different. It was a
Yeah.
roaring sound. And it's hard to describe to people because it wasn't a lion. I was at the zoo once when a lion roared right next to me and rumbled in my chest. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm all about bears. I've got books on bears for
Mhm.
whatever reason.
Mhm.
We had a cougar who lived next to my house where I
Mhm.
grew up. It was for a commercial, the Mercury Cougar car
So you're
commercial.
aware of your surroundings and the animals and
Yeah.
the sounds that they make.
All right. That's the point
Yeah.
I'm trying to make. I know what a
Yeah.
bear sounds like, a
Yeah.
cougar, and a lion. And these are the only
Yeah.
things that could possibly make a sound like this.
Mhm.
And it was different. This was a loud roar that went on for 20 seconds.
Oh my God.
And, that's a long time because even a lion doesn't roar that long. I don't know, maybe they could, but this went on. I'm like, what the heck? And you can feel it. It's multitonal, is a way of
Yeah.
putting it. High, slightly high pitch. Feels like it's going higher than you can hear and lower than you can hear.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now I'm with you.
But it's echoing and rumbling in your chest. And I'm
Did you
looking
know
around like,
then at when that roar went, were you aware then, essentially within your physical body, that Bigfoot? Did you have that spontaneous
only
awareness
by
that,
the time, the tail end of it.
yeah,
I'm like, oh my gosh, because I was looking up
yeah,
in the sky. I'm trying to pinpoint it,
mm,
because it's coming up. It's like sweeping over you.
yeah,
And I'm looking over, I'll call her Wendy, and her eyes are like saucers. And then it roars again. And
Wow.
this time I can tell where it's coming from. And I can tell it's pretty close. And I'm like, this is a Bigfoot, no doubt. I mean, this has to be. And I go running towards it
No.
uh,
You what?
because, yeah, I
You
did.
went towards it.
I ran towards it. And
Preston. Wow, fearless. Go on.
I wanted to see it. I wanted to see where it was. I could tell it was close. And the lady I'm with loses her mind, absolutely screams like, "What?"
I can imagine. Yeah.
Like she,
Expletives, everything. Yes. Yeah.
she's now in the car. She's rolling up the window. She's like, "Get back here! Are you crazy?" And I stop and I look at her and and God, I really wanted to stay.
Hmm.
She says it roared 3 times. Maybe it did. I
Yeah.
kind of trained myself at that point to be a trained observer.
Yeah.
Whenever anything unusual would happen, I'd be like, click, 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 click,
Yeah. You're
record,
there. Yeah. Yeah.
mark it
Yeah.
down. Maybe she's right. It was kind of an amazing moment that
But
catches
it
you
could
off
be, I
guard. But
mean, even with experiences, when I've gone with people, I've had the experiences that happened, and no two people can experience normally do not experience exactly the same thing. It's the perception of the individual experiencer. Does that make sense? So, it's like people that experience seeing a being whilst they're with someone, but someone that's with them doesn't experience anything, so to speak, or a UFO. Or so there's. I know through the research that others have done that I've obviously read is you could have two people like yourself and this lady. She hears three, you hear two, because that's the way the experience goes. No two experiences are ever alike, even with experiences. Does that make sense to you, Preston, at all?
well, to a certain extent,
Yeah.
if you look at police investigations and you'll
Yes.
see how them they describe. Well, I thought it had a green shirt, and other guys are like, no, blue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly. I
but
mean,
I think there is an objective truth to what's
yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I
I
agree
think
with you.
if
Yeah.
a trained observer is probably the one I would turn to. Uh,
Exactly. So no, I'm in agreement. It was just that
and
you
fear
raised.
also plays a role. Because I
Sorry.
interviewed fear. I interviewed 4 people, and I
Yes.
interviewed all 4 of them involving the UFO that came right over the house and sent on a beam of light.
Hmm.
And only one of them was really a great observer.
Hmm.
And he was so excited and
Yeah.
really
The
watched this thing
excitement. Yeah.
closely. Where
Yeah.
the other guys, like, he was had trouble getting details out of him. It's like, honestly, Preston, I'm really sorry, but this thing scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I hid
Yeah.
against the house. I didn't want to
Yeah.
look at it.
Mm.
So that made sense to me. But I do
I
think that, you know, something happened that's very clear cut, and there's one truth. It's not
That's
like
it.
there are multiple things
Yeah.
going on
And
here.
it's the filter with, as I was saying, it's the filter, say, between two people. I mean, all my contact experiences, I've never had a negative experience ever since childhood. Never, ever. And I've interviewed those that some have. And I have said it relates to belief systems and fear, cultural differences, and all the rest of it. So I think we can both eat an orange, my orange analogy. We're both experiencing an orange, however, we will experience it differently due to the contents of how we are. So you have no fear. So if you're trained in investigation and observation, more importantly, and because you don't have that fear, let's say you get maybe 99.9% of the picture of the experience than someone that would be either fearful or hysterical, or does that make sense, or frozen even, because sometimes experiences
Our
just bring.
beliefs play a huge role.
Yeah.
There's an analogy I read somewhere which really kind of, rang a bell with me where 4 people walk into a forest and one's a woodcutter and he sees like, wow, money, I could make 1 million.
Yeah.
Another is a
Yeah. Yeah.
naturalist,
There you
an
go.
herbalist, and like, oh my gosh, all the medicine here.
Yeah.
Another is, a city girl, and she's like, this is a horror. This is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
hellish place. I'm gonna be eaten alive. They all had completely different
Yeah.
perceptions of just
Absolutely.
a simple forest.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
yeah, so that was my Bigfoot encounter.
Okay. Let's continue. Go on.
Yeah, so I wanted to see a UFO so bad, and I'm investigating this huge wave of sightings in what turns out to be my hometown of Topanga Canyon, right outside of Los Angeles, California. This was in June of 1992. Just
Hmm.
so many people were seeing stuff. So I'm driving through the canyon, and I started to see unexplained lights,
Hmm.
but they were just lights, and I'm like weirdly skeptical because
More, more, more.
yeah, finding out UFOs were real made me question everything. So
Yeah,
I'm looking at stuff. I'm like, well, that's not good enough. Sorry. And there was,
exactly.
I was driving along and there's this huge bright light up in the sky and I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's probably a plane. It's coming right at me. I'm going to see it turn. I'll see the wing lights because I've seen this effect,
Mm.
but it didn't. It just winked right out. I'm like,
Wow.
whoa, this was bigger than any star. This was,
Yeah,
certainly not as big as the moon, but I don't know, maybe a eighth of the moon. It was
yeah.
enormous, bright white light.
Hmm.
And it winked out. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was, that was the best one, I
The
should
best
say.
one. When you
But
experienced that, were you there? Let's just ask the question. I'm sure I know the answer. When you saw that one, were you content then with, I want to see a UFO? Or did you still have that urge? No, no, more. Or
that
was
wasn't
that
good
enough?
enough.
It
No,
wasn't enough. No,
no. I
no.
mean, I had an earlier sighting where I went down to a UFO group to hear a contactee speak.
Mhm.
I'll never forget it. Andy Reese was his name. This is in downtown Santa Monica, and I won't give the whole story of, he just talked about his experiences, right?
Mhm.
And says, let's go call down a UFO afterwards. I'll give it a try. And a group of about maybe 10 or 15 of us, which surprised me because there was probably 100 people at this group. I thought everyone would like, let's see a UFO. But no, 15 people
Yeah.
went
Mhm.
out late at night, 10, 11 p.m. into the park across the street. Now, here's the thing. Santa Monica is a very densely populated area. And I looked up, you couldn't see a single star in the sky. I'm like, well, okay. And there's streets on all four sides with cars. I'm like, well, it'll be a miracle if we see anything. And he's like, okay, let's get in a circle, and I want you all to meditate for, 5 or 10 minutes,
Mhm.
which kind of put me off because I'm an analytical guy. I'm like, I don't really want to meditate right now. If you can call down a UFO, call down a UFO.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fine. Now I love meditation. I'm really into all of that. But
Mhm.
at the time, I'm like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
this is not what I signed up for. But we did it, and it's like, okay, I think they're coming. I want everyone to look right there. And he pointed to the sky, and he says, don't stop looking, don't stop looking. And it wasn't more than 15 or 20 seconds
Mm.
that this blazing bright light appeared, and it darted downward at a 45-degree angle and winked out. Now, I have to say, could have been a shooting star,
Mhm.
but there was no meteor shower at that time. I looked that up.
Mhm.
And he pointed to exactly where, I'm not even a little bit, he pointed to where it came right out
Mhm.
of the sky.
Mhm.
Exactly. So that was impressive, but
Mhm.
still not quite good enough. I'm like,
Okay, get that.
because there was a little bit of ambiguity there.
Mhm.
And it's frustrating because I'm like, that could have been a shooting star. Do I think it was? No, because it was terribly bright.
But don't you think I found personally for myself, these sort of experiences, oh no, it could be that, could be that. It's I find the humor in it. I find it. I call this existence that I've done a few podcasts on it, the Divine Comedy, on my YouTube channel, and it's like a tease. You're getting a tease, breadcrumbs, and it pushes you. Now, could be, but no, that's not good enough. I want to go on. Does that make sense? It's like what I said to you previously. I'd seen craft and whatever, and in my case, I just totally forgot about it too. It was nothing. But then when everyone last year was getting like different shapes, and I was going, I literally was throwing my toys out the pram, going, well, I haven't seen nothing like that. And I was going, I want to see that. I know I've had, I know. And then, boom, I got it. Amazing. And the door cam caught it. And then it wasn't long after that, I went, oh, is there anything else? I understand that no matter what. And then someone says, oh, I wish I could see that. But when you get to that point, is this correct for you, Preston? You go, no, there's more. Like, there's more to come. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's funny that I would get examples of that later on where it's clearly a sense of humor and very joking. And I'd go out
Exceptionally.
of town, and then UFOs would show up right where I was, or they'd
Yeah,
show up right before I got there. It's like, what
yeah,
are you doing? You put it,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that
It
sort of
is.
thing
Okay, we'll
has
get to
happened.
that part. So let's continue on this
But
journey.
so I'm really wanting to see a UFO because they're in my hometown, and all
Yeah.
these people I know are seeing them, and I'm interviewing them. This is crazy, and it all really began on the in 1992. I had 4 sightings that year. It was amazing. Uh, and the first one was July 20th.
Mhm.
Pretty sure. I'm not going to pin down that exact date, but
Mhm.
that's as
Mhm.
close as I can because
Yeah.
it could have been July 5th. It was in July of 1992. I went, it was a Sunday evening. I remember that. Went to my brother Mark's house, his wife, Christy, my sister-in-law, who does the artwork for my books, by the way.
I've seen
And
there.
then-
I saw an interview you did. I don't know when. I think it was last year, and I've also seen um, your sister-in-law on a podcast. I'm sure I have because I checked it
yeah,
out, and the artwork that she did and her relationship with you. I am aware. Yes, brilliant artwork. Absolutely. I mean, I'm an artist, but her art is outstanding compared to mine. It's amazing artwork.
yeah,
Amazing.
I'm very blessed to have her. So
Mm,
I was going over to their house, and they helped me through this because they're both experiencers.
mhm.
And I'm like losing my mind, trying to just process all of this. And I'm interviewing so many people.
Yeah.
It's like really overwhelming a little bit.
Mm,
Back then it was. And so they were counseling me through it, and we just talked UFOs for hours,
mhm.
which is, I'm so happy that I had them to sort of bounce all of this around.
But is that
And
like? I mean, it's like, and I found years ago before it wasn't okay to talk about it. Finding someone to talk to about this, because I call it like this addiction. We've got an addiction, and the addiction drives us to go. But we need someone around us that to help us. It's like like just stabilize us for a while, that we get maybe a bit grounded. Then boom, we're off again in search of the next stage. So am I making sense to you on that one? So your family around you was stabilizing,
really,
having their conversations. And I always look back in hindsight and said, so that's when I stopped. I noticed every so often I was still for some reason, either researching or talking to someone. Then all of a sudden, this passion, and I'm off again. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, yeah, I was very, very, very passionate to a
Yeah.
point where I kind of questioned, like, why am I so obsessed?
Mm,
But I have to say, it did divide my family a little bit. My
mm.
father was like, stop talking about UFOs. My brother, older brother, Jamie, and my other older brother, I have 3 older brothers, Steven, were like, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. This is not real. I'm like, yes, it is.
But at least, I mean, in my case, my mother had me diagnosed with schizophrenia at 16 because of it.
Yeah, it's
Did
insane when
you
you
did
think,
you have any? Did anyone suspect that you had mental health or school or anywhere?
no,
You were
no,
you were lucky. Yeah, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Yeah, yeah,
no, but they, my dad certainly wasn't happy.
no, yeah,
And and they were profoundly skeptical, and I could
yeah,
not get them to pick up a
no,
single book.
no.
They would not look at the evidence. Like how, and this is what would really make me angry. It's like you cannot say that this is not real if you won't even look.
Exactly. I
So
always
it's
say,
a point of
if
contention.
a being walked, Preston, if a being walked right to the front door, or I've said to people that say it's not, this is not true, you're delusional. I say, if a being or a craft was right above you, you would still say it wasn't true. For some reason, there's no recognition. You in front of you. I
Yeah.
don't
Well, I've
think they
looked
would.
into that. Skeptics have a very rigid belief system often,
Yes. Yeah.
or if you're, you know, perhaps very religious or perhaps
Yeah.
profoundly skeptical or
Yeah.
scientifically minded,
Yeah.
uh, it's very, very threatening to your belief system. And it's
I
just
think
not,
so. And
it's too
I
painful
also, I
for
think
people.
yeah. And another part when I was studying, I'm not qualified in it. But when you study quantum physics, and I was studying neuroscience way back, and it was about consciousness, and that's where I am now, the consciousness. And it was about left brain consciousness and right brain consciousness, and all the things that have been done on experiences. and how someone that's really left brain, analytical, matter of fact, has a really hard time stepping outside of their box of their social determinants or belief systems. Does that make sense to you? As some that's right brain consciousness has is more open to listen and have that understanding and say, well, maybe it is true. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, I think there's certainly an element of that.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. I could talk about skepticism and the reasons for it for hours.
Oh God, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but at any rate, so I'm at my brother's house, and it gets late. It's approaching midnight. I'm like, it's Sunday night. I work full time. I gotta go. It's a 10, 15-minute drive to my little condo in Canoga Park. They live in Woodland Hills. These are neighboring communities. And so I leave, and I'm driving my little Daihatsu, a little Japanese sports car, not a sports car, but a little economy car, down their street. I just left their house. It's a very short drive to the main road, Canoga, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming around this very, very steep hairpin corner that you can't take at any speed whatsoever. It's 5 miles per hour. You're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going very slowly around this very, very tight, steep corner when I look up because something caught my eye. I'm thinking, oh, it's a bird. But I look up and I see, no, it's not. It's a ball of light, and it's coming down at a swooping kind of parabola
Mm-hmm.
towards me. So now I'm thinking, well, firecracker, because it's July,
Mm-hmm.
and 4th of July has just passed. Some people are still shooting off firecrackers, but then this darn thing comes and stops right over the hood of my car, right in front of my face, a foot away from my windshield. And so now I didn't even think reflection for a second because I
Mm-hmm.
could see it wasn't, but I'm still testing it. I'm like, huh. And now I'm, of course, completely stopped. And I'm gripping my steering wheel
Yeah.
and staring at this thing, which is clearly intelligently controlled.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the size of a ping pong ball, a
Mm-hmm.
golf ball thereabouts,
Mm-hmm.
slightly larger. And it's mostly white. It's pretty much white,
Mm-hmm.
a soft white,
Yeah.
hard edges. And it's kind of wavering just a little bit. And I'm like, what the heck? And it moved to the left. And then it went all the way to the right. And then it went all the way to the left. And then it stopped again right in front of me.
Got your
I'm like,
attention.
whoa, look at this. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even really thinking much, just observing.
Yeah.
And then, because this all just took seconds, it darts forward, dips down, goes straight up. And I remember leaning forward and looking up through the windshield and watching it go straight up into, the stars.
How did you feel after that one? I mean, come on. That was a display, Preston. How did you feel?
Yeah. Well, I wish I could tell you because I forgot about it. I
Oh,
forgot the
yeah.
entire, yeah, I didn't remember it at all. I don't remember
Yeah.
driving home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how this all rolled out was a couple of months later that year, or certainly it popped back into my head. I'm like, oh,
That
I always
happened.
tell people this is my sighting of this like orb
Yeah.
until, years later, someone's like, well, what did you do, afterward? Like, I don't remember. And this is when
No, no.
I kind of, know, clicked on me like this was missing time. This is absolutely missing
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
because I don't
It's
remember
like what I
driving
said
home.
earlier with when I saw beings or craft, I'd look and then I'd forget about it. And then it was no big deal. It was like nothing. And it would be later on down the line, you go, oh yeah. Or I would afterwards, normally the next day, go, oh yeah, that happened. And then I'd totally forget about it. But then when the times I've learned over 66 years that it comes back, not just the memory, but there's an energy behind it. So did you find when you did recall it, there was a different time of energy to pursue you even further towards your addiction, so to speak?
It was incredibly inspiring. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
this happened to me. And
yeah.
after, more instances, I slowly dawned on me like, gosh, maybe I'm a contactee.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I'm thinking, well, I've had missing time. What happened here? I started thinking about, well, there's a huge golf course right there. It's surrounded by trees.
Mm.
Could a craft have come down? Was I taken in there? I started to get little tiny itty bitty flashes of like being in a place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all I could really remember was it was smooth and clean and pure and
Yeah.
wonderful.
Mm. Mm.
It was more of a feeling than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but eventually did start having dreams and really started to unpack what's going on there.
Hmm.
But it was like a month later that I went on a family vacation up to Crater Lake, Mount Shasta area with the whole family, you
Hmm.
know. And Mark, Christy, and I brought a big old flashlight and we stayed up late because we
Hmm.
want to call down UFOs. This is
Yeah.
in
As
August,
you do. As you do. Yeah.
Uh, and so we're, staying up late in the campsite. Everyone's asleep in their tents except us three. And we're surrounded by, sequoias. I think they were sequoias or redwoods,
Hmm.
real, real tall trees.
Hmm.
And there's this tiny circle of sky above us.
Hmm.
Not a great place for UFO spotting, but a brilliantly starlit sky.
Hmm.
Uh, and Mark shoved, we had our flashlight. We were holding the flash. Well, Christy was holding the flashlight. And we're just talking. I'm like, I wonder if UFOs are out there. It would be cool if we could see one. Isn't this a cool camping trip? And we're just kind of, talking. When Mark shouts out, I saw a light. And Christy and I look at him like, sure you did. It's like, no, no, I did. Give me the flashlight, quick. And he points it up and flashes
Hmm.
a beam of, this is a big,
Mm,
one of,
yeah.
not a huge flashlight, but a fairly large one, not your little handheld, but
Hmm.
I forget, 12 volt or something. At any rate, a big flashlight. And he flashes it once, and we're looking up, and this darn light flashes back in
Wow.
response. And
Cool.
I'm like, wow. Because, I know my astronomy. I took astronomy in college.
Hmm.
I've got the books. This was not a satellite. It wasn't a
No.
plane. It wasn't a helicopter. You go
No.
through all of this, right?
No.
And we're like, flash it again, flash it again. So he flashes it twice. Boom, boom. This darn thing flashes twice back at us in a slightly different spot.
Hmm.
So I'm done. I'm cooked. This is it. We're communicating with a UFO.
Hmm.
And that was it. Now, Christy's like, no, it flashed again. I'm like, because by this point, again, I'm like very careful to observe what's happening here.
Yeah.
Maybe it did. I don't want to dispute it, but that's what I recall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was way the heck up there. And she's like, no, it was pretty low. So again, those minor variations, but so cool.
Hmm.
And it was literally 2 weeks later, I'm back in LA, and Stephen Greer,
Hmm.
well known,
Yeah. I know who he
comes
is.
into comes into LA and he's forming his group called CSETI,
Hmm.
Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, how to call down UFOs and initiate contact.
Hmm.
And I'm like, gosh, I'd love to go to this, but he wants $300.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money. I'm living by myself in a
Yeah.
condo, paying rent and living check to
Hmm.
check, and have a visa debt. I can't afford this. So I was kind of disappointed, but the newspaper calls me up, says, I have no idea why we're doing this. We never pay for anybody to do this kind of thing, but for some reason I feel compelled to, pay your way if you will write an article for the newspaper. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, no, we'll do this. Because I had written a previous article for this newspaper,
Yeah.
and the editor just loved it. So he's like, do this, and we'll pay your way. I'm like, okay, don't have to ask me twice. But it was funny and weirdly synchronistic and just
I mean, to
amazing.
be honest, Preston, excuse if anyone, I'm English, I swear, you can't make this shit up. It's not coincidental. You can't make it up. It's
Yeah,
quite obvious. With you got the Stephen Greer of the day, you don't have the money. I can't go. He's going to call them in, but I've just done that. That would be my first thought. I've just done it without any technique. I've just done it. There's no, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying, as an experiencer, you were doing it already without any technique to be trained, and you didn't have to pay for it. It was free of charge. However, your passion, this is what I'm saying, and I found for myself, your passion, your addiction, as if the universe or the humor of it all. Hello, yes, Preston, would you write? Oh, yeah, we're going to pay you. Just go. That
There
to
was
me is
guidance
not,
there.
yeah, it's not a coincidence. It's meant to be that way. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
And
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't have mentioned it if the editor, Colin Penno, didn't keep repeating, like, I don't know why I'm doing this. We never do this.
That is, but you know what? I've heard that before, and I've done it myself. Sometimes I've done things, but I've heard it from others. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it, and I don't know why. And as sometimes I'm talking, and in my head, I'm going, I don't know why I'm saying this. So I actually do understand how, for me, how consciousness works, how this all works, and the one and all integrated. So I think that's a beautiful story. Do go on.
And, and there was more to it. I mean, I've
Go
only
on.
just begun because I ended up meeting a contactee
Mm-hmm.
who was having profound experiences. I
Uh-huh.
met another guy who became a really good friend.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm sitting there in the lecture, right, listening to Stephen Greer speak, and he's like, "Here's how you call down UFOs. The best case I found comes from this case by Preston Dennett." I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, "What?" And he describes this case that I did, where this guy down in Santa Monica called down UFOs using lights.
And he was
And I,
Stephen Greer was unaware that you was in the audience.
yeah, he had no idea.
No idea. Do go on. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm assuming he had no idea. Uh, but at any rate, it was written in his book. And he quotes the case and he's like, and here's the second case I found, and it's also by Preston Dennett. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna talk to him. Uh, so, long story short, he gives all the techniques. He's like, let's go up into the hills. We'll see if we can call one down. And there was probably 40 of us. Very cold night
Mm-hmm.
for August. It was chilly.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out into the hills, which really weren't that remote, but somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
The Santa Susana Pass. And we all hiked 20 minutes into this little spot. Just got there, and someone shouts out, "What's that?" And we, of course, all look up, and at the very zenith, and this has got to be 20,000 feet up,
Mm-hmm.
if not 40,000. I can't tell, but it's a huge light, about the size of a quarter moon or a half moon,
Yeah.
and it's moving a few degrees across the sky and winks out. And I know this is not a satellite because satellites don't get that big, and
No.
it's not a plane. There's no way.
No.
It's anything I can, prescribe as a conventional aircraft or
Mm-hmm.
natural phenomenon. So that was cool. Uh, and, not quite ambiguous, but a little bit. It was a
Yeah.
light, I should say.
Yeah.
So we went out the next night and almost nobody showed up, maybe 10 of us,
Mm-hmm.
15. I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all sitting there meditating, and strobe-like lights came down over our group, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, what is it?" We could not figure out where they were coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. And we ended up forming a little LA group of, 10 or 15
Uh-huh.
people, and had quite a few really cool sightings.
How did your article
Um,
after the experience with Stephen Greer, and you wrote the article for the newspaper? How was that received?
It was well received. I called it
Good.
Making Friends with UFOs. I think he put it on the cover, and
Wow.
he wanted me to write another article, and I sent him like this 40-page thing, and all the editors, they started complaining because they're like, "You're turning this into a tabloid newspaper." He's like, "I'm the main editor. I can publish what I want. I am the head editor. This is my
Yeah.
newspaper."
Mm.
But he ended up not publishing that next one, or did a little tiny excerpt of it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But still, I mean, I just find it beautiful, and that's why when I said I want to hear about Preston Dennett, not others, Preston and his experience, because I knew
But it was very
it would be
cool.
enriching and exciting, and I
I
wanted
ended
it.
up talking to
Fun.
Stephen Greer. We're driving through because he came back and we did another episode and called down another UFO.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Preston, I have to thank you. I'm like, oh, really? I'm driving. He's in the
Mm.
seat next to me. I will say he's a nice guy. I've had conversations, and we don't agree on everything
No,
by any means.
no.
But at any rate, he's always treated me very kindly and says, I have to thank you. I'm like, oh, really? Why? He's like, that article you wrote,
Mm.
calling all UFOs for UFO Universe, which
Yeah.
is what he quoted in his book.
Mm-hmm.
That was my wake-up call to form CSETI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's a terribly nice thing to say. Thank you.
I mean, isn't it amazing? I mean, I started at the beginning of the hour. I didn't express how amazing the work that you've done for all experiencers like myself. but you have no understanding or recognition the things you've done to help so many people, which is how it should be, by the way. But because of your, I've always looked at you as an innocent. You've got the passion, which is, and you just go for it. Fearless, you just go for it. And the amount of people that you, even the likes of Richard Greer, how about that? That you have assisted on their own individual journey. And that's what it's all about. That's the
This is
importance, I think, of every experiencer has that importance. It's not ego related at all. It's part of the puzzle. We're all coming together to help one another. And I think that's a beautiful story, Preston.
it's amazing. I look at the whole tapestry of it. I'm like, if my brother had not seen a UFO, if that
It's
editor
amazing.
hadn't paid for my
Yeah.
way, if all of this stuff, other people hadn't, been there for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, everything seems to. I in my docu-series on YouTube, I call it the Divine Comedy, because everything is like we're all actors on a stage, and that's what I say. And everything, the script is written, the props are done, everything. I only got that through hindsight and 66 years of being here, but it's everything is staged. Everything's exactly where it should be, and that's for me the humor of it. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I say hindsight's a bitch. I wish I had a bit more foresight. But then it wouldn't play out the way it played out if we knew what was going to play out. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
And
anyway,
it's
do
really
go on,
interesting
Preston.
because, I started having a few more sightings. They started to stack up. I remember another time, this was with a sea SETI group again,
Mm-hmm,
and I was in Topanga Canyon. It was my turn to head the group, pick the place, do the meditation,
mm-hmm,
which I never wanted to do because I'm more of a wallflower. I'll just be in the background. You guys, I don't want people looking at me. Don't listen to me. I just want to watch.
mm-hmm.
So they're like, no, 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 it's your turn. Fair is fair. I'm like, fine. So I picked a spot where I knew there was lots of activity and was easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought hot chocolate and coffee for everybody. I went all out to make everyone comfortable. And we had a little core group there. There was maybe 6 of us in the Topanga Canyon State Park. Closed at night. We snuck in. uh, and we're setting up, I did the meditation, which was, I just speak out loud and kind of guide. It's a guided meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we close our eyes and kind of just try to visualize our location and calling craft telepathically. And so all our eyes are closed. I mean, mine are, so I can't verify everyone else, but yeah. And I kept getting this message, like, look up. I'm like, I'm not looking up. This is the middle of the meditation. I'll look up once the meditation is done. I just started, like, we close our eyes for 5 or 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, look up, look up, look up, look up, look up, look up, look up. Like, this is annoying. And so finally I just looked up because it just became this overwhelming urge.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't words, it's just look up.
Yeah.
So finally I just opened my eyes and looked straight up. And at that exact moment, this is so cool, this pinprick of light appeared. There
Mm-hmm.
was nothing going on, but immediately the pinprick of light appeared straight up where I was looking, and it expanded, expanded, expanded. And I hate to tell people this because it sounds like I am crazy, but this circle of light expanded to covering a good third of the sky.
Wow.
It was huge.
Wow.
And this could not have been a shooting star. There's no way. Couldn't have been anything I've ever seen before.
Wow.
And it went fast. Um, sorry, the dog's going crazy.
That's all right. We're all crazy, so it's fine.
Uh, so yeah, and then it winks out. This took maybe a minute. I'm not even, this took maybe 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise I would have called out like, hey, everybody look. But it winked out and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, and I looked at everyone, their eyes are closed. I'm like, everybody, hey. And they're like, what? I'm like, I just saw something. They're looking at me with, kind of incredulous and
Yeah.
slightly,
Our
envious.
eyes are
Not
shut.
really,
Why
but
is yours open?
I'm like, I just saw this. And of course, they know I'm an honest guy. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Mm.
but you could see their expressions like, "Oh, we missed it." I'm like, it was so cool, and I described what happened, and I had this weird, odd feeling like, no, this was for you.
Yeah.
This was meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is really cool because this was in the middle of a wave of sightings, 92 to 94.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm putting up flyers and I've called the police and I'm going door to door and I'm cold calling people. I mean, I went all out. And I got a call from Bruce, let me see, Raina Massey and Bruce Merrifield, who were
Hmm.
driving through the canyon on that night in that area, a mile away, and saw a UFO, full metallic craft,
Wow.
tilted on its side, flashed its lights at them. This is that sense of humor. They didn't show, I saw this thing either going or coming in,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, but they were right over the ridge,
Hmm.
right next to me at the same exact time.
Yeah.
They saw this. So that was confirmation for me to
And
some.
I think even as repeated experiencer, even for me and for many others, we do need that confirmation still. It's amazing. People that have not experienced it say, well, if I saw it once, then I wouldn't need any more. I said, trust me, you do. You need that confirmation. You need another to see it, but then you need to go further than that. It is, I think, confirmation. It is your truth. I always say the experience that you have is your truth, and no one should ever doubt your truth. However, we do try to validate sometimes. Validation needs to be there, and I think why it needs to be there is like that little seed to push us a bit further. We can move past that. We can move past what we call the nuts and bolts, the calling in, to take us further closer to what actually experiences are about. Does that make any sense to you at all?
Yeah, sure it does. It's a journey, I think, for all contactees
Mm-hmm.
and really everybody on this planet.
Everybody, yeah, whether
Who am
they
I
know it or
kidding?
not.
But
Yeah.
so at this point, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm a contactee or
No,
anything.
no,
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 no, no, no.
no. It
God,
doesn't.
no.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't register.
But I started to wonder because, around that time, I asked this lady to go on TV.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a little public access channel.
Yeah.
12 people are going to watch it if. And she's like, sure. She had let me use her real name. I wrote about her story in one of my
Mm-hmm.
first books, and
Mm-hmm.
which took years to get published and never really did. But at any rate, she called me back like 2 days before we were supposed to do it, and she's like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh, why not? If I might ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's fine if you don't want to. I'm just curious. And she's like, well, the ETs came, and they're like, no, it's not time.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, because that would mean that they have to know about
Yeah.
me. They would
Yeah.
have to know.
Yeah.
And I had interviewed this other lady who's like, well, the ETs kind of guided me to you. I'm like, sure they did. And I'd interviewed this other guy who says, the ETs like your style of writing. I'm like, yeah, sure they do. And he's like, no, 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 they think they respect what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I believe this. But I started to get little hints like that,
Mm-hmm.
which really made me wonder. And I remember it really kind of came to a head once when I was interviewing this guy, a Marine, a really good guy. I mean, he worked hard for labor rights for the company he worked in. A wonderful man, a family man with like, I don't know, 4 kids, 5 kids. Uh, and he, his experiences were very difficult because he was in the military and I think he got MILAB'd and it was just a
Yeah.
mess.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, I had interviewed him and he called me back the next morning. He's like, right after I hung up the phone with you, my little 4 or 5-year-old son came running. He's like, Daddy, a star landed in the street and got this whole story of it turned out to be a UFO
Mm-hmm.
hovering or, right there in front of his house while we're on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not a coincidence.
No, no.
So it started to occur to me, bit by bit, like there's something going on here. And when I started seeing UFOs more often, I mean, one time, I mean, I saw a metallic craft that was kind of V-ish shaped with indentations. I'm like, oh my gosh, That's the only metallic craft I've ever seen. Totally silent, huge, right
Did
over
that did
Canoga
that
Park.
did that feed your? I want to see a UFO. Did that feed it at all? Did that nourish it, or did you still going with the passion?
That was very gratifying. And I immediately did what I always do. I wrote it down,
Yeah,
and yeah, it was like that one kept me, let me.
content.
It fed my addiction for a,
Yeah, it fed your
had my
addiction for a
fix.
little while. Yeah, and yeah, that's what I was saying. Until something else, and you go, oh, and you just, I get restless, like I did with the great big cube that appeared in the sky. Oh, and all of a sudden, it's just I when I look at like listening to you, and I think of I see the funny side of it, how when you said, "Oh, do you think they know about me? How they know about me?" And I've heard that so many times, and they go, "But why me? Why me?" Like this. It's that. It's to
I
me,
never really asked that because I kind of figured it out. I
yeah.
started
But
looking
many
into.
do ask, "Why me? Why me?" And and I always go, "Why not?" I mean, to me,
Yeah.
it's why not. It's part of your journey, but the way you were saying it, and it's like they drip fed you slowly, slowly, slowly. You go, oh, okay,
Yeah,
it's
this is
fun.
very clever and I think appropriate
Yes,
because if you just knock somebody over with
no, it
something that
doesn't work.
they might not be able to, it's
No,
not
look,
palatable perhaps
yeah, I
or
drip feed it.
hard to
I
process.
think it's yeah, and but I do. I have a lot of humor with my experiences, and I don't know that everyone else does, but um, I think they tend to know how you function, how you work, and they work with you individually on that. And I can
Yeah,
just
well,
imagine they've been with you since the get go. So anyway, Preston.
yeah, I think so. As far
Yeah,
as having that missing time incident in 1992, like why didn't I remember? I think part of
yeah,
the reason was, I didn't want to focus on myself. I had a mission, and this is
yeah,
something that did come to me. Like,
mm,
do you want to write about this? Yes, I do. This is what I'd
yeah,
like to do
yeah,
for you. Yes, this is what we want you to do.
yeah.
If you want to do this, this is sort of came to me. I later
I
had a
mean,
dream memory of being on the craft. I
yeah,
think this was from that missing time incident. I
yeah,
can't say for sure because I started to have a lot of recall,
yeah. I
but
mean,
they were
I
showing
find,
me.
yeah, I find with dream memory and dream experiences and day memories, and it's like discombobulated. And I keep saying, can you put them in chronological order? And
Yes,
slowly they're
please.
coming into chronological order. But 66 years they've been, which come first? That one or that one or that one? And or was that prepared for that one? Or did I see that in the future? And it's only recently, it's seemingly in some sort of timeline, an understanding where it's coming together for me, hence why I've returned with the podcast. What I'm supposed to do now, whatever that is, I'm doing it now. I
Yeah.
don't know I'm doing
Well, the
it.
reason I think this memory is, probably connected to that one because I was young in this
Yeah,
memory, and all
yeah,
the people I was around were young too. We
yeah,
were like
yeah,
in our early 20s.
yeah,
It was all guys. We
mm,
were in this craft. Clearly, well,
mm,
yeah, it was a craft.
mm,
Had a big auditorium-sized room.
mm,
There was probably 40 people in there and ETs who I couldn't see, but I sensed they were there.
mm,
But there was, 20 tables, and each table had a sort of machine on it that was, in essence, a free energy
mm,
machine, a free energy motor, something along these lines. And they're teaching us
mm,
about energy. And I remember looking under it to see if there's plugs or wires or anything like this.
yeah,
No.
yeah,
And they were all young men. There were no women, which is interesting because I've talked to people who, men and women are taught
mm,
separately in
mm,
a number of people's experiences. So that was true in that. And we studied that for a little bit. And then they're like, okay, it's time to come, everyone come to the side here. And we all went out and they turned the wall transparent.
mm,
And
mm,
when I say transparent, I don't mean like glass. I mean,
no,
you can't see anything.
no,
It's as if there was nothing there.
mm,
And we've also, of course, seen photographs of the Milky Way and all of its splendor and glory. Does not compare to
not to
being
what's
there.
there. Yeah.
It is 100 times more
Mm,
spec. It was spectacular. It's really the only majestic. It was
mm,
unbelievably beautiful. It
Hmm.
was jaw-dropping, it was breathtaking, and I'll never forget it. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I was able to remember because this was so
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
Like, oh, and having interviewed people who are like, oh yeah, they showed me, the energy motor, the engine room, or
Hmm.
almost always they'll show you a star field at some point, or the Earth down below, or something
Yeah,
along.
yeah. I've had the planets. I've been obviously on the craft. I've seen that the planets. Mine was more to do with. It was weird. It was maths and astrology for some unknown reason. It was just maths and astrology. Um, and I mean, even remembering now, I couldn't even put it into words what I experienced. It was
It's
that
very hard.
profound at then as it is now. I can't articulate um, or express to give the context of what. So I totally get what you're talking
uh,
about.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna write all this in a book some point because now I have enough experiences where I'm like, okay, it's worth
You
it. This might
should.
be interesting.
You no, you should. I mean, Preston,
But
this is what the point of this interview I wanted to do. I wanted to do a Preston Dennett interview. You write about others. It's time for you. I highly recommend you write your
yeah,
journey.
here's
I,
another weird
oh,
experience.
you go on, share.
Like this one, often wonder about it because at work, I work full time for years, 35 years. I worked full time through all of this, exhausting. Uh, so I would go to the post office for my company and the bank each day,
Hmm.
and I'd pick up the mail and drop off the money.
Hmm.
And so I am, and every day, I would leave at the exact same time, right? And so my route was always the same. And it was funny because I would always cross this one intersection, and every single time there was a jet that would fly right over me, and I'd see the shadow of it. You can see the shadow of a jumbo jet
Hmm.
with the wings, all of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And I kind of grew to, enjoy it. I'm like, because it was kind of just cool, right? And I'm like, oh, here I am at this intersection. Will the jet come? There it is. Well, and the reason I'm saying this is because I was driving back,
Hmm.
coming down Owen's Mouth, and I saw a shadow exerted down onto the street that was perfectly round.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, how can you tell? Well, I've watched this shadow every day of this plane, and I can see the wings
Yeah.
and the cylindrical.
You
This
can
was a
tell the
round
difference between
shadow.
something that's got wings and something that's circular. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I looked down in absolute astonishment. I'm like, there's nothing that can do this except a
Yeah.
saucer-shaped craft. So of
Mhm.
course I looked up and I don't see a bloody thing. But I
That's
always
cloaked,
wonder about it.
cloaked. I would say cloaked. Uh,
Possibly, there were
yeah.
trees on either side and it was
Well,
moving fairly
I
quick and
often wonder, like we said, oh, could it be this or could it be that? And I think we're coming to the time now. Well, I definitely am because I run an experiences group with who brings experiences, and I say, look, if I looked at you on the screen, I'm not going to say is he human or not human. Could he be a robot? I don't do that. You're human, and I think we're coming to the time now. We know what we see. We need to stop saying, is it a plane? Is it a satellite? Is it Superman? Is it, oh, I don't know, whatever. We know what we're seeing, we're perceiving. Like a newborn, for example, in child development, they don't know what they're actually seeing. They don't know. So they have to learn. Even a human, they don't know. And to the point comes, they see it enough times, they know what they're experiencing and they learn it's a human. We know what we see.
yeah.
I think we're coming to the end now to say, was it an aeroplane? Was it Superman? Was it this? Was it? No, we know it's our truth.
I think
And
we're all
I
victims of the UFO cover-up to some degree that
exactly. And
we
this is why for me bringing the podcast back is for the experiences to take the narrative back because the experiences is the data. We are the data. We are disclosure. But it is the overshadow of what's been going on that we're still going, is that a star? Is it got a tail? No, you know what the fuck you see. You know what you see it. And I think it's standing in your truth. When you stand in your truth, I know what I saw, I know what it is. I don't have to second guess it. Like I know you're Preston Dennett. You're not Mary Rodwell, who's coming on the show in a couple of weeks. I know. I don't have to guess, do I? Does that make sense to you, what I'm trying to say to you?
And I admire people who stand by their convictions in the
Mm.
face of incredible skepticism and
Yeah,
ridicule and a hostile climate,
yeah,
because it's difficult. And keeps so many people, the
yeah,
majority, from even talking to even their spouses or
yeah,
children or
yeah.
people they
Oh, I'm,
love.
yeah, I'm aware.
So
But you're not
yeah,
one of them.
no,
You've
I'm
never been one of them.
I'm transparent. I'm inappropriately honest.
You know, I
I'll get in
know. I
trouble.
mean, yeah, I think I'm similar. Hence why I have trouble with social media. I have trouble. Mother tried to diagnose with schizophrenia. I'm another one, and I say to the guys in my experiences group, "It's your truth. Don't let anyone give you self doubt on what you experience. You know what you. As soon as you experience what we call a contact experience in any shape or form, whether nuts and bolts or beings, you spontaneously are aware. Even if there's not telepathic communication, you know, your first one, you know instantly. And then your mind will come in with your belief systems, or someone will say, well, it could be, that's got to stop now. It's time to stop that.
I really don't care what people think. I
I
never
don't
have,
care either. I don't
you
care either.
know. And to me, it's kind of amusing when people kind of shake their head and roll their eyes and like, you poor man. I'm like,
Yeah, I know. I
you'll
know.
learn.
I
You
mean,
know?
as I said before, we closed the show. I sent the cube to this guy, his podcast. It's his job to do that, and and he put it out, and he was talking about the comments. I said, I don't read comments. I said, the comments are irrelevant to me. If someone sees it, they will know. If they know, that will be it. I never. Do you do that question? Do you ever look at the comments and the feedback and the criticism?
Do.
You do.
Oh yeah. I respond to every comment on my YouTube channel,
Really?
every
Really?
single one. Uh, and if someone's very hostile and negative and starts stating their opinion as fact
Do you send them
and are
love?
rude,
Yeah.
no, that's not acceptable.
No, you delete
But
it.
if they
Yeah.
are genuinely skeptical and curious,
Mm.
yeah, because it's a community and we're here
Yeah.
to learn.
Yeah. I mean, Peter, the
Um,
guy who done the YouTube video for me, he does all that. It's his, not mine. It's not my one. It's his one.
I enjoy it. I always
Yeah.
learn something.
Yeah.
But boy, people can be mean on social media. People hide behind an anonymous avatar, and
I've seen it.
they're
Yeah.
professional trolls. Some of these guys, because I'll look them up. I'm like, if
Yeah.
someone's exceptionally rude and just off
You're
the
like a
charts, like,
dog with a bone, aren't you? You're an investigator, so you're going to investigate. I mean, what we've got to bring it to a close. But before we do, Preston, thank you again for re-kicking up my bum to get me going with Inception podcast. And you actually, I was nervous before, but you said, no, you can do it. It's going to be fine. And firstly, thank you for that. But I would like to ask your opinion of where we are now. Now, obviously, for entertainment purposes, we've got all this going on the outside of us with so-called disclosure and everything else. Um, do you have any thoughts or opinions or observations about where we stand now as experiencers of what's going on the outside, and what do you think the way forward is for experiencers at this moment? What should we be looking
yeah.
forward to?
Well, it's a very interesting situation we're in now because there is steps towards disclosure,
Yeah,
but it's manipulated, it's
yeah,
disinformation, it's
yeah,
fear-based.
yeah.
It's not to be believed. Do
No,
not, this is my opinion, my
mm,
advice. Don't look to our governments,
I
our
agree.
intelligence agencies, our military,
Yeah, I
the
agree.
pundits on TV,
Yeah,
the
I
skeptical
agree.
side. Don't look to them for information because everything we know that we can trust about ETs and
Mhm.
UFOs comes from one source, an
Source.
incredible source, and that is contactees.
That's it. Exactly.
People, it's time for people, in my opinion, to speak about what happened to
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Be strong
Yeah.
in love and
Hmm.
truth.
Hmm.
Don't buy into the fear narrative.
Hmm.
Do your own research. Vet everything you hear. Uh, there's a huge gap between belief and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And in this era, we have to really work hard to ferret the truth out because there
Mm-hmm.
is so much disinformation. There is so much fear.
Mm-hmm. I'm in
So,
I'm in
so
total agreement. Hence why I'm restarting the podcast. Preston, I can't thank you enough for the conversation today, getting me back on track. And I look forward to the next book when it's your journey, when it's going to be your journey. For anyone watching, reconnecting with us, to let you know, up and coming on the podcast, I have Mary Rodwell. She's a returning guest, coming back to support me. And I have Ray Hernandez. If I said that correctly, Ray Hernandez. I have Ray Hernandez coming on, talking about his experiences, his new book, his journey. As I said, I'm just coming back in. I'm not running as many shows as I did before. So be patient with me. I will make mistakes. It's been a good few years. But Preston, I can't thank you enough for helping me to get back on track again. And I look forward to your book and more of your YouTubers, because they're just amazing. It's just amazing. So apart from the book that you're about to write, is there anything else you've got up and coming that you would like to share with the viewers?
yeah, thank you, Gloria. The book I'm actually writing right now is a sequel to one of my favorite books ever,
Mm-hmm.
which is Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, all
Mm-hmm.
about a contactee by the name of Dolly Saffron.
Oh,
Most
Dolly. I
extensive,
remember
yeah,
Dolly. I had
yeah.
Dolly on my podcast before with you.
Ah, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Dolly's been
she's
on the.
lovely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely adore her. She's my go-to gal on this subject, and we're doing a
Mm-hmm.
sequel to, that book, which
Mm-hmm.
is one of my most popular.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my current project.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got all kinds of books, that I'd like to write very shortly. And yeah, do my YouTube channel, a new episode each Friday. I do my own podcast with Dolly, actually, called The Light Gate,
Mm-hmm.
each Monday evening,
Mm-hmm.
8 to 10 p.m. Eastern USA time.
Okay.
Uh,
UK
and
UK viewers, just go Google Preston Dennett, because we have to watch after, because obviously our time differences. But is the podcast you do with Dolly, is it on the Preston Dennett same YouTube channel?
yeah, but we've got several platforms, Rumble and Roku, and
Okay.
it's also, syndicated on mainstream radio, UPRN,
Mm-hmm.
107.7, I think it is, out of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, um,
Well,
I've got books on Amazon too, of course, and other online retailers. It's an important subject, so I really appreciate you giving me, an opportunity to talk about this because it's time people know. It really is. It's past time.
yeah, it is, and I appreciate you being on the show and supporting me returning. You were amazing last time I had you on the show, and you've been more than amazing today. And thank you for sharing your personal journey today. Preston Dennett, the experiencer. And once again, I look forward to the book. It will be amazing. To everyone else, I'll see you in a few weeks' time. Our next guest, I think, is Ray Hernandez, telling his life journey as an experiencer. And he also has a new book coming out. Until then, it's bye from me, and it's bye from Preston. Take care, everybody. Bye. Now,